Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda, and welcome to our channel. I've been working hard since before the pandemic to bring you the latest news on our channel. And I can tell you that the shift I'm about to describe is something that no one could have expected. What am I talking about? Well, folks, here's a headline of an article on your screen from Bloomberg. Americans say they are now less likely to work far into their 60s. Since this pandemic forever altered the US economy, forever altered the world, many things have started to change. Well, first of all, we've now understood the vast disparity between the rich and the poor. There's a separate set of rules for the rich who get these loans, who get the Paycheck Protection Program, who get funding from the US taxpayer through the government, and there's a separate set of rules for the poor who are dependent on stimulus checks, who are dependent on unemployment benefits, which are gone now. By the way, all the federal unemployment benefits are now gone. And there's a completely separate set of rules for those who are willing to work. And unfortunately, the rich and the poor live by a completely separate set of rules. And now Americans are deciding that they are going to take charge of their own destiny. Here's a quote from Bloomberg. Americans say it's increasingly unlikely they'll work deep into their 60s, according to new data from the New York Federal Reserve. This is incredible data, everyone. In fact, let's show you this article, this headline from the Center for Microeconomic Data. And this essentially represents what is happening with unemployment and what is happening with the experiences that people have had. Let me give you the bottom line. The bottom line is this, and you'll see this image on your screen. Retirement expectations. A greater share of Americans anticipate exiting the labor market earlier. In July 2019, you can see that more than 50% of individuals were working beyond the age of 62, and some 35% of individuals were working beyond the age of 67. In July 2020, notice how that magenta dot moved to the left and that black dot moved to the left. And in July 2021, this is most recently, this moved even further to the left. So what is happening, folks? The numbers say that people are more likely to quit as they get older. So the bottom line is people are not going to be working as long. And in fact, there is some data to actually back this up. There's some data that reinforces this research. And what is the bottom line? There is a wave, an avalanche, if you will, of early retirements triggered by the pandemic. More than 1 million older Americans have left the labor force since March 2020. Some Americans have been rethinking about their priorities after the pandemic. They want to be closer to family. They want to have jobs if they work, that is, and they want to be able to do things that give them more flexibility. And for many others, they may have to withdraw simply because there are no jobs. Now, this is leading to a dramatic shift in the labor market where job growth has been dominated by older workers in the past, but not so much right now. Let's show you this image on your screen, workplace shift. Older workers account for virtually all job growth since the year 2000. So you can start to see that since 2000, older workers, that is workers who are essentially 55 and above, essentially contributed to a majority of the job growth. But now a lot of these older workers are saying, thanks, but no thanks. Many older Americans are quitting, and those that are not quitting are holding on tighter to the jobs that they have. What is happening here is a complete and a fundamental shift in the US economy, folks. So what this means is the so-called reservation wage, which is the lowest salary that respondents would be willing to accept in order to switch to a new job, rose sharply for workers aged 45 and over. It increased by 11% in the year through July, roughly double the rate of inflation. What this means is older Americans are either retiring early, and if they choose to work, they want higher wages. In fact, let's show you this image on your screen. The annual reservation wage increase was pronounced, especially for older workers. This chart on your screen only accounts for workers, only takes into consideration workers who are over the age of 45. So you can see in July 2017, that amount was $57,000. That amount remained roughly steady in 2018, 2019, and 2020. But in 2021, that amount increased substantially to well over $66,000. So this is a fundamental shift in the economy. I believe there are three big shifts in the US economy. One, a decline in the labor force participation rate. Less people are working now than before, and this is across the board, and this actually includes women who actually dropped out of the workforce in large numbers. Number two, African American individuals, Hispanic individuals, and individuals with lower education levels, who, by the way, happen to be individuals in the travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality industry. They are the ones who suffered the brunt of the pandemic. They are the ones who were dependent on stimulus checks and unemployment benefits. And now, in a brand new trend, older Americans, those above the age of 45, those above the age of 55, and by the way, a substantial portion of the Ignition Time channel subscribers fall into that category. I get this data and these statistics from YouTube, so I appreciate you watching our channel. A substantial portion of older Americans are now less likely to work as they get into their 60s. This tells us that more and more older individuals are less and less likely to work unless they have a job that gives them a high salary and a good deal of flexibility. And more Americans are likely to retire early. Individuals who considered working into their 60s and early 70s, well, not so much anymore. Now the thought is, I'm not interested in doing that unless I have more pay, more flexibility, and unless I get what I want. This is a new shift in the American economy. This really is a re-engineering of the American workforce because, again, like I mentioned earlier in this episode of Ignition Time, older individuals actually contributed to a majority of the job gains over the past 20 years, but now they are dropping out of the workforce because they don't feel the need to continue working. And folks, I believe that older individuals as well as the other affected individuals as a direct result of the pandemic will now, in this post-pandemic world, find new ways to use their skills, whether it's starting a business. By the way, new business creation, new business formations are on the rise. And I believe, the eternal optimist that I am, that this should lead to a re-engineering, a positive re-engineering, because at the end of the day, I believe in our ability as Americans. I believe in our genius as Americans, in our creativity as Americans, and I hope that if you're watching this video and if you've dropped out of the workforce, whether intentionally or unintentionally, I hope you can find your true passion, and I hope you can pursue those passions and get the right amount of education and training. There's tons of free training available on YouTube in order to achieve your American dream. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. This right here is a little bit of information about me. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.